Hello and welcome to a late night edition of Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted to be joined in his pyjamas by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how are you?
Well, it's not my pyjamas. And are we colour coordinating here?
I think we might be, aye.
Okay.
The most fashionable Scottish podcast going.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, what did we talk about the other night? I said to you, this kind of knot in your stomach is going to be the mode from here on into the end. We're only halfway through the marathon and the sprint finish is already up and running. Every game counts. Every game's going to be tense as anything. But I'm interested to know, Dan, your feelings on this. I think personally, there's a couple of ways to read Celtic's performance and result tonight. I'm interested to know how you felt about it. I would say you could either look at it and say that was alarmingly poor and there's no way that side is strong enough to go on from here to win a title. Or you look at it on the flip side and say, Martin O'Neill doing his magic again. He's not got a great group of players, but they've managed to eke out another 3 points. Wilfred Nancy wouldn't have done that. And so these are the sort of nights and results that grind your way to a title. How do you feel?
I think, to be honest, probably the first, I think Celtic were pretty poor. I mean, if Falkirk had their shooting boots on, I mean, Ethan Williams had a brilliant chance in the first half, and then again, right at the death,
it was Wilson in the first half.
Or was it Wilson?
It was Williams.
Wilson goes right
with 10 minutes to go.
He just needs to tap it in. And then Kasper Schmeichel right at the death as well pulls off a brilliant save.
That was from Williams.
Aye, that was from Williams. You can look at it and go, look, Martin O'Neill steadied the ship. It's obviously 2 games since he came back and 0 goals conceded. But I said it before on this show, Keith, and I don't know if you agree, but this Celtic squad, as it stands, does not win the title. No way. I just can't see it. They don't have enough quality.
My personal take on it is that Martin O'Neill will be horrified by that performance tonight. And whatever it is that he's trying to do, now he's trying to put a team together, he's trying to do training sessions, he's trying to organise for games. Whatever spare time he's got is spent onto agents, onto clubs, onto players, trying to organise a January transfer window. At the age of 73, this is ridiculous.
Mad.
But I'm telling you now, he'll struggle to sleep tonight off the back of that performance.
I agree.
In fact, he'll probably be on the phone past midnight, trying whatever moves that he's trying to make in this transfer window. That'll have made it even more urgent because I thought Celtic was shockingly bad tonight.
Yeah,
I think they've ram raided Falkirk with 3 points. At no point did they. I thought Falkirk were the better team for 78% of that match tonight.
And what I would say as well is that obviously a lot of this will be in Celtic and we've got plenty of comments coming in, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. But I'm conscious this is going to sound a touch patronising, but Falkirk were so impressive. Like collectively, they are such a good team. They don't have many stars, but they were brilliant, I thought.
Well, look, were they as impressive as Motherwell when Motherwell played Celtic off the park at Fir Park? No. But they were still easily good enough to dominate Celtic in just about every area of the pitch. You brought up Wilson. He thought he was Williams. He was terrific in the first half. Down that right-hand side, Lisa backing him up behind him. I thought Taneke was awful. Thought the pair of them had him in the back pocket. I thought in midfield, Brad Spencer was head and shoulders above everybody else. And then there's the curious case of Benjamin Nygren, who sort of almost sums up this Celtic team. His contribution is massive, and at the end of the season, Celtic might be looking back on Nygren's contribution as the difference maker in terms of this guy's goals won the title. Mm-hmm. Games like tonight, he's popped up with a winning goal, and yet he fails almost consistently to convince. And tonight was probably the perfect Nygren 90 minutes, where he's come up with a goal from nothing and contributed just about, very little else throughout the course of the game. Possibly one of the biggest problems in the Celtic team, and probably one of the biggest positives, because he keeps popping up with these goals.
You're right. I know. I mean, I think that's 12 goals now, for Nigrinson to come in. And what was it? What did they pay? 1.8 million or something like that, which is
Yeah,
teenage really in this market. But I agree, he kind of goes missing. You,
he flatters to deceive,
aye.
but if you're popping up with the amount of goals that he's popping up with, and
Mhm.
there's a winner tonight in a game that Celtic shouldn't have won, you know, these are that by the end of the season, when the dust settles, when the titles are being handed out, the medals are being handed out, it might well be that Benjamin Nygren's contribution has been absolutely invaluable to Celtic.
Aye.
But I think we go back to the conversation we were having last night. If that's the case, and somehow Martin O'Neill gets this team over the line and they win it, and Nygren's been a major contributor to that, well, it papers over the cracks and it tells you that there is so much remedial work that's going to have to get done next summer to put Celtic back into the sort of footing and platform that they've been used to being in over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Because this Celtic side is a pale imitation.
Yeah. I mean, we've got comments coming in to that effect now, Keith, and as I say, if you want to get involved, please do so. Marzuno, I think slightly sarcastically, says that wasn't deeply concerning at all. Craigie says, we need a striker or two in ASAP. Get a move on Nicholson. Thomas Burns says, we're going to need more than a striker against Hearts, or they will beat us again. Jamarama says, how can that board sit and watch this horror show? Absolutely nothing up top. And Chick says, Celtic put Dick Turpin to shame tonight, Keith.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's
the point, because let's not forget there was another game tonight involving the people, the team that's currently sitting top and setting the pace at the top of the Premiership pile. Hearts, they've gone down to 10 men again, second game in succession, this time after only 14 minutes, and they've still managed to come away with a 2-0 win over I think we will all accept, a St Mirren side that's struggling for form right now, but an extremely capable St Mirren side. Mm-hmm. They are sending out a message.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said the other day, obviously you can't win a title without moments of adversity, without suffering. They've suffered in the last two games, going down to 10 men. By all accounts, it was a correct decision. I think VAR got involved. But Benji Beringame, by all accounts, it was a bit reckless and was probably the correct decision. I think Kevin Clancy gave him a yellow card to begin with. VAR asked him to take a look again, and it turned from yellow to red, and that put Hearts in a serious predicament. And it also puts Hearts, at a disadvantage when it comes down to that game against Celtic on the 25th of January, because Beringame won't be there. But Hearts keep finding a way. And look, I feel this is where it feels strange. I'm praising Hearts for that, and at the same time I'm criticising Celtic. But I think that's probably down to the standards that have been set and the drop-off in Celtic standard. Celtic should be way better than where they're at right now, scraping a 1-0 win. Hearts, to go down to 10 men, 2 successive games, and come away with 6 points. And if you add in the Livingston game at home where they kind of struggled, got a 1-0 win, 9 from 9 from 3 really difficult 90 minutes. I think they're sending out a message, Dan, and anybody that doesn't realise or suspects that Hearts are just going to melt away, once we move in from winter to spring, they're kidding themselves on. This Hearts side will be there right until the death, no matter how it shakes out at the end.
No, I completely agree with you. And the comments that are coming in from Hearts fans are along that line as well. G. Clunas says Hearts players showed they're willing to play for a club with ambition. McKenna says it was a well-deserved win and it was a definite sending off. He also adds Hearts were magnificent today with 10 men from the 15th minute. David Watson says, come on, the Hearts brilliant tonight. And Joseph is pointing out that St Mirren had 2 goals chopped off as well, which in a weird way makes it almost a sweeter victory for Hearts against all the odds. As you say, 2 games running, 10 men in both games.
Well, I think it was 2 offsides, wasn't it? And we like to think that the technology we've got would suggest that
it was correct. Aye.
We need to take that as fact. I think it was a duo offside on both occasions. But here's the problem, right? Here's the, if we're looking at the big picture, which we need to do at this point, going into the second part of this campaign. Hearts have, when all hands were needed on deck at Dens Park, they produced that performance. Craig Gordon comes up with a save. They are painting an image of a team which is busting a gut to stay on top, to give everything it's got. They might be more limited in terms of, you know, technical ability. I'm not sure about that. That's probably a different argument. But they are going to the wall in terms of what they are prepared to give. I looked at that Celtic performance tonight, Daniel. I wasn't convinced. I'm looking at players who have been big players over the course and distance. I'm wondering about their levels of motivation. I'm wondering about their commitment. And you can't question that. It's the opposite of Hearts. These guys are emptying the tank right now to get these results, get the wins, stay on top. And then you've got, you know, when you look at, and there's an interesting, Barry Ferguson's got a column in tomorrow's paper, which I recommend to all readers. And he talks about the reaction to James Tavernier's penalty at Pittodrie the other night when the players were celebrating. And he was saying that was exactly the sort of unity that he was trying to bring into that dressing room. Players that were feeling low, feeling bad about themselves, feeling a bit beaten up by everything they'd experienced at Rangers over the previous year or however long. And he's seen something, a rejuvenation, a kind of bolstered spirit. Hearts have got that in spades right now. Rangers look as if they're coming on to it. And I look at that Celtic performance and I don't see it. And that, for me, if I was Martin O'Neill, would be the most worrying thing. He's come back in. The players were delighted for him to come back in because they weren't having the previous manager. They respond to that with one of the probably best performances of the season. Great result, certainly against Dundee United at the weekend. And then they go away to that game tonight. Difficult away fixture, not great conditions, plastic pitch. They didn't give anywhere near enough from what I could see, and they were extremely fortunate to get out of town with 3 points.
The two guys that I would look at, Keith, and I feel like it's maybe a wee bit poor to single them both out because Celtic collectively were rotten tonight. But Daizen Maeda and Rio Hatate, both absolutely phenomenal players on their day. Maybe two of the best players in the entire Premiership when they're playing well. But to me, neither of them look like they want to be there. They just don't look the same players.
I'm going to flag up that picture of Hatate. There we are. See, like, here's the thing, right? See if I'm a Falkirk player. And I know this is going to sound like dinosaur stuff, but I don't care. If I'm a Falkirk player and I look over at the Celtic bench and he's sitting there like that, I'm thinking, we've got them tonight. They're not interested.
I think you're spot on about that, eh? No, I think
they're
you're right.
not interested. They don't want this. They don't want to be here. They just don't fancy it. Mm-hmm. Or certainly Hatate. And then you've mentioned Maeda. Maeda, you know, I mentioned that Celtic looked like a pale imitation. Maeda looks to me, I'm sorry, but it looks to me as if his head's completely gone. I think he can't wait to get away. It wouldn't be surprising me if he's busting Martin O'Neill's door down, trying to say to him, you know, I've overstayed my time here. I've done more than my time. I was promised, because the model is at Celtic, come in, give us a couple of years, perform at the best of your ability. You're on an upward trajectory. You'll go places from here. Maeda looks like a player that, I'm sorry, but his heart doesn't look at it anymore. And again, that was another one of those performances tonight, which gives you cause for concern.
We mentioned it on the hotline the other night, Keith, the fact that Andreas Skov Olsen, who, you know, as we sit here, is virtually on the brink.
He's halfway in the door, isn't he, at Rangers? Becoming
a Rangers player. That would leave Wolfsburg without a wide player. Martin O'Neill's let us know that it was Wolfsburg Maeda almost went to. If Celtic were to settle Maeda because Rangers have signed a top Denmark international, that would just be catastrophic for Celtic.
No, to facilitate Rangers signing a top Denmark. No, that one, and for that reason alone, maybe Maeda, maybe it is time. Maybe Celtic will realise that. Maybe they'll believe it to be the case. Maybe they have to try and get as much as they can from him before these performances that he's turning in. You know, if another 6 months of that, I'm not sure what value you're going to get for Maida in the transfer market. So maybe it is time. But I'm telling you now, if this Celtic board, as unpopular as they are right now, make a sale and sell him to Wolfsburg, cash in on him, and the nature of that sale means that Wolfsburg are able to do this deal that sends out Skov Olsen to Rangers, optically disastrous.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that even this Celtic board would have the brass neck to put that one on themselves and take what would likely be the ramifications from a support which is already in full-scale rebellion against them.
Yeah.
You can't sell a guy who is, whether or not he's on form, off form, Hearts in it, Hearts not in it, whatever it is, he has been a sort of talisman for Celtic over these last 12 months, particularly since Kyogo was sold. So to cash in on him in a move which then frees up Rangers to get a player of that quality, that would be, I'm sorry, I can't see that being anything other than absolutely catastrophic in terms of the PR perception. And Celtic are already struggling badly enough on that front.
Aye.
But that doesn't mean, you know, there won't be other people at the table for Maida. I just think if it was Wolfsburg, it takes a bad problem and makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah. In the comments, Marty says we simply can't sell him in this window. Michelle Shaw says, if that's us tonight, God help us next week against Hearts. Celtic's next league game is, of course, at Tynecastle, which can't wait for, honestly. Marzuno says, I'd be raging if we lost millions of pounds as well. And this one, actually, Keith, I wanted to get your take on. Kasper Schmeichel. Chris says, Schmeichel's save could be for us what Gordon's save was for Hearts the other day. I agree with that, but I wanted to flag it up just because Kasper Schmeichel's taken a lot of abuse recently. A lot of Celtic fans would have dropped him, and that was a top-class save right at the end to give Celtic all 3 points.
Well, I think who was it? Nygren got man of the match from Michael Stewart tonight.
It's a bit mad.
Incredible decision. For me, Schmeichel was the man of the match. I thought Falkirk had all the best players, but Schmeichel's contribution was probably most important of all, and it got Celtic 3 points, and they'll deserve 3 points. And I'm quite pleased for him because I think he's an excellent goalkeeper who's had a terrific career. I think he's going through a hard time just now, and I think he's in danger of becoming the scapegoat a little bit. So, you know, he comes away from that game tonight having made just as much of a contribution to Celtic's victory as Nygren. I would argue more than that. I would argue he was the key contributor and probably deserving of the Man of the Match award.
No, I completely agree. That's huge. I wouldn't quite put it in the same bracket as Gordon saved the other day, but in terms of meaning, in terms of...
It's nowhere near in terms of quality, but in terms of what it means potentially as this kind of incredible race comes down to the wire, Celtic might look back on that save tonight and say that was the difference. That was and same way as Hearts might look back and say Craig Gordon's save won 2 points at Dens Park. And who's to know in the final evaluation if that 2 points might be the 2 points that win Hearts the title? Exact same thing can be said. It's a very good point. Schmeichel's save tonight gets Celtic 2 points that they probably didn't deserve, and who knows what that means when we're calculating and adding up the numbers in May. I
mean, I don't think it's going to be. I mean, could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be more than a couple of points that wins this league. That could have been them tonight. Who knows?
Well, this is the thing, Daniel. Right? When I said that we've now entered into a sprint, and it's only the marathon's only halfway through, that could play out two ways. It could play out that everybody gets involved in the sprint, and they're still neck and neck when they get to the line, or it could be that somebody blows up because they've gone too far from home. And it's too much pressure, it's too much strain. they can't cope with it, and somebody goes in the mid part of the race, if you know what I mean, and just don't have the stamina to make it then. But Hearts, fair play to them, they've sent out a message with these two last results that, you know, even in the face of adversity, they're going to keep on winning games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just before we go any further, Keith, I wanted to talk, going back to the Hearts game a little bit, but not on Hearts, on St Mirren. Just very briefly, our colleague at Record Sports, Scott Burns, put out a story earlier on this evening saying that Aberdeen are looking at 3 managers, or they've whittled it down to 3 managers for the new, to replace Jimmy Thielen. He says that it's 2 German coaches and Stephen Robinson who are being considered. Now, I think we're both in agreement. Robinson's done a phenomenal job at St Mirren, but is it maybe time for him to look for a new club?
Well, that depends if anybody's come looking for him. I strongly suspect that Lux Pfannenstiel, if he's been given his head on this one, and I think he probably will have done, that he'll go for the German options.
And I should say, Keith, the 2 Germans mentioned are Robert Klose and Marcus Gisdol.
So Uwe Rosler's kind of dropped out of the running.
It seems that way.
Well, look, the fact that Uwe Rosler was an early front runner, I think you've got to look at people's MO on this. I'd be surprised if Aberdeen didn't go German. And I think that Lutz will be in charge of that. I have to tell you, the big surprise for me is that Jens Bertolascu is not in the reckoning at this point, because I think what he's achieved, the style of football that he's introduced at Motherwell, I think the Aberdeen fans would be all over the back of that. If they thought their side could play that style of football, progressive, attack-minded, Pittodrie would be absolutely sold out. I'm not saying anything against Stephen Robinson, because I think he's done, and I don't know how many times I've praised him on this show.
Yeah,
he's done an incredible job at St Mirren. The consistency that he's managed to produce as well, despite a high turnover of players, despite, you know, having to shop at the low end of the English market more often than not. What he's done is incredible. And if I was an Aberdeen fan, I'd be quite attracted to that as well. But I'd rather suspect, as we kind of said when this managerial hunt kicked off, when Jimmy Thielen left, it was always likely that Aberdeen would try and throw in a bit of a curveball, go somewhere outside of the box, and it looks as if old Lutsy boy might be leading the charge. And that's not to say you can't, because there's a lot of talented coaches in Germany. Rangers have managed to get one right now. Who's to say it won't work for Aberdeen? No. I think I'd have been looking closer for home, but let's see how that transpires.
Aye, absolutely. Before we wrap up, Keith, we can look at the Premiership table as it stands. So you can see there, Celtic have now leapfrogged Rangers into second place on goal difference. But Hearts, 6 points clear after 22 games, just 2 defeats to Celtic 6. I mean, the 25th of January, we've mentioned it this week in the hotline, that is absolutely pivotal in this title race, Hearts against Celtic. Crucial.
Oh, it's massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's mouth-watering as well. But Derek McInnes, have you noticed the sort of change in tone, the change in message? You know, he's been very keen to play it all down right from the start. He knew right from the start that he had a chance here, an opportunity. And as Celtic and Rangers took it in turns to self-destruct, he knew that opportunity, the door was opening all the time. Now he's got to this point, he's over halfway through the campaign, the messaging is starting to change very subtly. He's putting it out there that this side will go the distance. He's putting it out there that this side is in a title race, when he was very keen to kind of take a step back from that earlier, say it's really early doors. But that messaging, I don't think it's for public consumption. I think it's for his dressing room. I think Derek McInnes is just gently building it up, getting them, you know, motivated for what lies ahead, making them believe which is probably going to be the most crucial aspect for Hearts. And then you go through 2 games like that. He described the 3 points at Dens Park as probably the most important 3 points of the season so far. I haven't heard yet what he said about that result tonight, but I'll bet it's right up there.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is saying, even when hit by adversity, even when decisions are going against them, even when it might be a lack of discipline, that'll be a concern for them, because that can blow up in your face when you're going into the final stages of a title race. But his messaging has changed subtly. And as I said to you, I think that's directed at the players. I think what he's saying to the players is, look, guys, we're ready now. He's probably been telling them that internally since the start. But now he's just putting that a little bit extra on it by speaking publicly about it. And I think the players will respond well to that. I think they'll look at that and say, look, the gaffer's now saying, it's take the handbrake time off. Let's go for this. And I think that the belief is building momentum. In the stands, you could hear the fans tonight at Tynecastle. Derek McInnes had said to them, we might need you. There might be moments here where we're going to rely on you. There are some Hearts fans, believe it or not, that look and say, well, yeah, that's great that we are where we are, but the performances haven't been brilliant. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And what he needs now is to build this unity, the connection between the team to the stands, which has always been there. But I think what they can't get is complacent here, the Hearts fans, and just think that, yeah, it's fine that we're there, but we should be blowing teams away 4 and 5 now. That's not going to be the case here. This is a long-term project from a Hearts perspective. And this is really the first full season at it. And they're only halfway through that. And look where they are. But what they're going to need is for the fans to stay on board, to stay hungry, to stay as hungry as the players. And if they can kind of remain unified and all together between now and the end of the season, that could be a real force. And it could be enough to drive Hearts over the line. We've seen what they're doing in the transfer market. They've acted swiftly, cleverly. They've picked up 2 or 3 players already that look as if they're going to be big contributors in the second part of this campaign. They've got a really experienced, astute, tactically clever manager. They're all set. But what they can't have now is, a sort of malaise where the fans not back off it, but kind of lose their enthusiasm because they're getting used to it. They have to realise that they are entering into the land of fairy tales here, and they have to be as energetic and as passionate about that as the players. And with that combination, Hearts will take some beating.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just before we finish, Keith, one last visit to the comments, because we've got plenty coming in. Scotland the Brave says, when Celtic struggle to get a win, it's lucky. When Rangers hang on nearly every game, it's good set pieces. Embarrassing.
Well, I'm conscious of that, right? I was actually conscious of that when we were discussing this earlier. But the 2 teams are coming from entirely different places. This is a Celtic side that's won 13 out of the last 14 titles. This is a Celtic side which has swept all before it for years. It hasn't had any threat to its dominance. It's now a Celtic side which is looking increasingly flaky from game to game. Now, compare and contrast that with a Rangers side, and what have they won over the last while? So for Rangers to be getting these results, there is more of kudos to them for that in a strange way, because it's bucking a trend. And I said it the other night about Rangers building up from the bottom, from the foundations, and Celtic crumbling from the top down. I said to you, at some point, and it might be sooner rather than later, they're going to meet somewhere in the middle. And it feels as if, that comment there would tell you, I wonder if we're nearing that point already.
Yeah. Jamarama says, let's see how Hearts got on when they lose a few first-team players. I believe the word says Kabori was outstanding when he came on, him and Mato. Hopefully this season it's over for Glasgow. Craigie says, a 3-horse race until May. The winner will take the spoils. RFC 72 says, draw on the 25th and Rangers step in and march to the title. Jim Cunningham says, the thing is, Hearts, a draw would do them. That's why they will end up beating Celtic. Chris Gardner points out that Cammy Devlin went off injured tonight and it looked like a bad one. Sean says it's either Hearts or Rangers for the title. And just as
by the way, that's a concern. If Beningme is not going to be available through suspension, and if that is correct, and Cammy Devlin's got a sole one that might make him touch or go, who knows, for the Celtic game. Hearts would have a major problem then if the beating heart of the midfield was not available for a match of that sort of significance. That really, so I'm sure Derek McInnes will be getting his medical team and the ice packs right on Cammy Devlin as we speak.
Yeah. And just, I keep saying before we finish and then say something else, but before we finish, the reason why I'm worried about Celtic, Keith, and Celtic fans might slaughter me for this, not only can they not get signings over the line, not only do they definitely, in my eyes, have 2 or 3 players that don't want to be there, but in the fixture list, they've got Hearts away and then Rangers away as well the next time they play them. It just... look, I could be totally wrong. Martin O'Neill could be the deciding factor, but it just feels...
Yeah, but it might be Martin O'Neill, the director of football, that has to be the deciding factor on this one. We've said it now for... since the start of January, that whoever does the best business in this window, and I don't know if we've had a season like this where you get to January and it really might be decided by who's most active, who's on the front foot in the transfer window in January, who does the best deals, who has the most ambition. Martin O'Neill's going to have to do a dual role here as head of recruitment and first team manager, and he's going to need help. And that's he's as competent as Celtic can get. There's no doubt about that. The guy has legend status from his previous achievements in the dugout. But this is a different time. We're 20 years on. He's now running about at his age, 73-year-old, making phone calls, trying to get deals done. Listen, if he can achieve that, if he can single-handedly do the deals that improve Celtic squad, improve his first team going into the second part of the season, and then do his bit in terms of instructions tactically from the sidelines, and it's enough to get Celtic over the line. As I said previously, where do you want the statue?
Yeah.
But I feel for him, and I think he's been badly let down. I think that he's been prepared to step up for the cause, and he's starting to look around saying, guys, I'm standing here holding a water pistol. You do realise we're in the middle of a gunfight?
Yeah. Well, look, whatever happens, we'll be here on the Hotline Live and Record Sport to report on it all. But for tonight, Keith, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. The comments, as ever, have been absolutely brilliant. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Keith won't know. Keith's on his holidays again.
Bonsoir, Danielle.
And actually, before I let you go, Keith, I just love this. In the comments,
oh yeah,
someone talking about how you've won Wimbledon again with that statue, but the mirror behind you. Yeah,
it's been picked up a few times. I feel that I'm okay with that because I quite like it. I mean, the mirror. My only difficulty was the other day when we were doing a pre-record with Barry Ferguson, and I realised he had 2 of them up, and I felt I actually wanted to ask him, going to move to some other place in the house, Barry. It doesn't look good.
No, he does. No, brilliant. In all sincerity, I hope you have a great time on holiday, Keith, and everyone watching, hope you can join us at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Yep,
cheers.
Bonsoir.